It's been 5 years since Capcom's Monster Hunter series finally conquered the Western market in the form of Monster Hunter World. Even for those of us who have been playing since the days of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, World felt like a breath of fresh air as the series finally hit the big time and was no longer restricted to the wildly uncomfortable Nintendo 3DS. Now, after being one of the best Nintendo Switch games of 2021 and one of the best PC games of 2022, Monster Hunter Rise has finally arrived on Sony's shores to be, shocker, one of the best PlayStation games of 2023. Going into World, it felt like Capcom's design philosophy was to make a classic Monster Hunter experience, but pile on the quality of life changes to make the game more accessible. Rise takes that ethos even further, focusing on the movement mechanics of the series to create the best feeling Monster Hunter game ever made. First off, the new companions, Palamute, join the beloved Palacodes to aid you in your hunt. While these crafty canines can do the standard attack and support tasks that Palacodes have been able to do for years, they can also be mounted like miniature horses. This not only allows you to get around faster without using your stamina, it also lets you sharpen your weapon while on the move, which is a godsend. And most importantly, you can also drift while on your dog, which is not a sentence I thought I would be recording on this fine morning. The other central mechanic in Rise is the wire bug gauge, which we cannot gush enough about. The extra layer to traversal, combat and pacing that the wire bug adds completely changes the game in ways we haven't seen in the series since Monster Hunter 3's divisive attempt at underwater combat. Wire bugs work in many ways, the most prominent of which being their core use as a zipline, allowing hunters to fly around the map in a way previously reserved for the insect glaive weapon. These bugs also add to the game's combat with extra offensive and defensive options. Each weapon comes with unlockable moves to customize your experience, which more than makes up for the lack of any new weapons in this release. But what is a Monster Hunter game without monsters? Rise boasts a roster of 40 monsters, with 6 of those having powerful Apex variants, and it's a mix of new and classic beasts. As the land of Kimura is based in ancient Japan, the new creatures are primarily based on Japanese folklore, and the result is some of the best designed foes in the series. Front and centre is the Magna Malo, whose samurai-inspired look makes for one of the best flagship monsters the series has seen since the sadly absent Gore Magala. Rise's story revolves around the Rampage, a calamity that once besieged Kimura village 50 years prior, and is now mysteriously returned. This ties into the Rampage mission, which works as a sort of tower defense game in which you set up turrets and traps to repel monsters before they can destroy the gates protecting the village. Rampages are at their best when played with one or more extra hunters, but they're more than serviceable on their own and offer a fun experience outside of standard hunts. One other way that Rise improves upon World is through its multiplayer integration. In World, all of the game's hunts were accessible from the same quest board. While it was certainly a good idea in theory, it led to a lot of faffing about, as certain missions couldn't be played in multiplayer until certain criteria were met. In Rise, it's much cleaner. You have the village hub, which consists of easier, low-rank quests for solo players. Then there's the gathering hub, where the missions designed for multiplayer are housed, but you can still play these solo as well. This is all where you'll be spending the majority of your time, as upon completion of the village quests or the low-rank quests in the multiplayer hub, you gain access to the Gathering Hub exclusive high-rank quests, which offer up new monsters to hunt, as well as harder variants of previous monsters with new attacks and new material drops. You also can't have a Monster Hunter game without great tunes, and thankfully, Rise delivers here too. The first time we heard the horn kicks in on the Sandy Plains flamenco-inspired battle theme, the hype hit us like a tidal wave. Even songs that previously existed in the series, like Spark of Blue, get their own ancient Japan-inspired remixes. We also can't talk about music without mentioning the absolutely wonderful Fluffy Bunny Dango tune that plays during the adorable cooking animations, which had us smiling ear to ear the first time we heard it. Moving on, Rise was quite the looker on Nintendo Switch at launch thanks to Capcom's incredible RE engine. While it still looks nice here on the PS5, there are noticeable visual downgrades from the likes of World in some instances. However, worst visuals are a fair trade for silky smooth framerate, something that the Switch version didn't have. This edition is also fully updated at launch, though issues present when Rise originally released, like the missing conclusion, are not a problem here. But there is the elephant in the room that the Sunbreak expansion isn't included at launch and is instead arriving in spring. Considering that this isn't a full price release, we don't feel that this is too much of an issue, especially since there's already enough content in the base game that will easily last you until then. Monster Hunter Rise is the new standard for the series, and it's a delight to finally have it here on PlayStation thanks to the improved framerate and visual fidelity over the original release. There's so much to it that there are still many things that we haven't mentioned here, like the new monster riding, sped up collecting and mining, or the hunting helpers. It's a game this reviewer put over 100 hours into on the Switch, and we could well be looking at another 100 here on PS5. Monster Hunter's eternally satisfying gameplay loop is met with now essential quality of life and traversal improvements. And that has been our review for Monster Hunter Rise. Let us know down below whether you're picking up this port now that it is finally available on PlayStation. And while you're down there, remember to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you in the next one, guys.